I remember first meeting Carlos because I was 30 minutes late to a meeting that we had.
Where did we meet?
I think it was
And
Cafe
so
Select.
our friends were like, you guys should meet. You have a similar sensibility.
We met, and he was doing some amazing things with Fantastic Man, and I was always interested in photographing men.
It was easy. I mean, I think it's very rare to meet someone, especially in this industry, who feels familiar to you for real. This industry is not necessarily known for loyalty, right? And so immediately I think there was just a special bond.
We have to actually think about what our first shoot together was. Was it something for ID?
I don't remember exactly what our first shoot was, but I do remember a lot of our early conversations about work. I think we both were like, wouldn't it be cool if we could reimagine a lot of these concepts that we both felt spoke to us, but reimagine them through the lens of what we felt was missing. And so there was a lot of conversations about magazines we were both working for at the time, Vogue being, I think, the main one, and how as a platform, we both found that Vogue was still just as relevant as ever, but maybe wasn't utilizing its platform to the best of its ability. So telling really modern stories and featuring really modern people. Casting is something we've always really connected about. And so I think the first story that we did together that had a real impact was a couture story for Vogue, featuring Anak, Adut, and Ugbad.
We have a lot of conversations about like protagonists, like seeing a new protagonist in these clothes, or seeing new protagonists in old clothes, or seeing new protagonists in like a setting we've seen before, like something familiar but also something new. So for me, like we were talking a lot about, it'd be amazing to do couture clothing. Like I remember that day so vividly because we sort of pitched it as an idea to Anna, and she took to it, and we were really like in a playground when we were on set. You know, we had like all these jewelry guards and all these amazing clothes, and it felt like between us it was a collaboration that truly became special and iconic because we were imagining essentially our friends, models that we were drawn to, girls that we love, in sort of the finest clothing of the moment, in a way that felt so fantastical and otherworldly, but also human. As well. Like, that feels very important to me and to us in our work. I actually really want to like look at my phone and like find the first shoot.
Yeah, because
Is that okay? Because I'm pretty sure like, would that be all right? Oh my gosh. Well,
that was the first
this was the
yes. That was funny.
And then
I guess that was the second. No, wait, where is that?
This was in Atlanta. You remember this?
Oh,
and then this was.
Oh, cuties. I think Tyler and I both share this reverence for fashion and for fashion history, and certainly for what I think some people consider like the golden age of fashion, so the 90s and the 2000s. Whereas I think a lot of people, younger people from our generation, their intent is to just like do something completely new. I think we both really love that era, but have always found Black people, people of color, people of, diverse gender expressions to be largely absent from those pictures. And so I think it's always been an interest of ours to sort of recast, reimagine what those classic sittings could look and feel like through the lens of us. And so I think for that Vogue sitting, having a platform like Vogue, which is as upper echelon as you can get from, certain perspectives, and couture, which is the highest form of fashion, the highest form of fashion is art, and those sort of classic pen couture sittings that I think inspired both of us so much. And to take women who at that point, Anak and Adut and Ugbad were sort of up-and-comers, but we saw them for what they could potentially be, which eventually they did become, right? The biggest fashion stars in the world. And we said, these are the people who we haven't seen wear these clothes, and this could be a fresh take on it. And it was really reassuring and I think refreshing that people responded almost instantly, actually, the way that they did. Embracing
The way you decorate yourself, right? Whether that be through a hijab or whether that be through couture clothing, that all of those expressions are beautiful. There's something about them being adorned by these Black women that to us felt very important at the time and still feels important in our work. I personally find it really important to look for young people in this space to like work with. I mean, if you're looking to make artistic statements, if you're looking to make art, you're looking for people of a similar age to you. You're looking for young people to think about what's next. What are your generational concerns? You know, so like, what are we concerned about? I think like I am particularly obsessed with like research and images and image making, and we have so many heroes and titans that have come before us, as Carlos said, you know, whether that be Bruce Weber, whether that be Avedon, whether that be Penn, but also whether that be Roy de Carava, Gordon Parks, Ming Smith, you know, people that were I would say especially Ming Smith and Roy, left out of the canon or weren't, you know, able to make images for such magazines as Vogue and Harper's Bazaar, right? Weren't able to get published as regularly as some of their white counterparts. Like, we think about these classical titans, these photography titans, as people who shaped what their era looked like, and I think we want to make a similar contribution, you know? And I think that, like, working with people of my generation is what's important to me, and it's what that is about.
We've both been very privileged to work with an array of people who I think are incredibly talented and have very clear visions. And I think sometimes if the project calls for it, we might say, okay, I'd love to work with someone older. I'd love to work with someone who has a different point of view. I'd love to work with someone who can bring something else that I might not think of. However, I do think, for me personally, my favorite work, and certainly the work that I think is most impactful, has always been with people who I can see and who can see me in a very specific way. I think being able to exchange about references that might be very specific to your generation or to your sort of corner of the world, it always results in something that feels more special and more personal. And I think fashion as an industry, but certainly as a industry that produces images that I think have to feel like something, I think it feels best when it comes from a very personal place. And I think with Tyler, I'm able to express myself in a way that maybe I'm not with people who don't really understand where I'm coming from or what makes, you know, my point of view very specific. So I think that's why I think the work that we do together holds a very special place in both of our worlds.
Finding a collaborator like Carlos is like something you hope for from the beginning of making work. We've been so lucky to sort of, I feel like, advance the conversation around not only who's in front of the camera, but who's behind it. Where someone comes from really means for the resulting image and artwork. You know, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I think a lot about how being Southern, how the history of what happened there in the founding of this country really impacts what I make, how I relate to people around me socially, and how I think of myself as, you know, a black person, a young black person navigating New York, navigating the fashion industry, but also being from the South, right, where race relationships are a different thing than the North, even still. So all that makes its way into my work, and in terms of our work together, when you find someone who has the same reverence for similar concerns, you're talking about something that you're searching for and continue to search for. So I think we're constantly trying to build community. You know, we have other collaborators we love. We love Jawara, who's a hair artist who's, you know, extremely canonical now, you know, and like an icon. We have other friends, makeup artists, we have creative directors, we have
casting directors, filmmakers, models who we are both obsessed with and actually spend a lot of time with socially, who we're so inspired by. And I think a lot of times even most of our work is really inspired by personal conversations. And I think we've been very lucky in that respect. But, you know, our larger community is certainly such a big part of that conversation. And we've been really privileged because actually we get to work with our real friends. Tyler mentioned Jawara, who I've known since I've been 16. Like, Jawara is a real friend. And most of the people that we work with are as well. And I think that if we didn't have that, it might be a lot more difficult to tell authentic stories and to delve into, I think, the details that take something from being good to making it be really great.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think, like, fashion has made certain geographical places sort of the epicenter of what it wants to talk about. You think about Paris, you think about Europe, you think about London when you think about fashion. You don't think about Atlanta, Georgia when you think about fashion,
Right.
but there's so much style there. There's always been black visual style in the way we express ourselves. You know what I mean? Whether that's clothes, whether that's the way we sing, like even like movement, right? Vibration, athletics, like
Sure.
everything in black life is, visually expressive and highly stylish, highly fashionable.
Yes.
And so it's
We are
like
an aesthetic people.
we want to bring that alive through pictures. Like that's what excites us. We've taken trips to Atlanta to make work. We've done some covers of ID that are specifically about Atlanta that I'm sure people in this industry kind of balk at. Like, why would you do that? But when you get down there, it's really like you see where it comes alive. You see what is foundational to what it is kind of to be American, you know what I mean? And what it is to be stylish and be a black person. Like, I had so much fun going down there with our team because, like, we got to bring people who had never been down there, and they started to say to me, oh, I see it. Oh,
Like,
I really get it.
Similarly to, when we went to Queens to shoot.
Yeah.
And, I'm from Queens. I'm a Queens boy. And I think Queens has a very specific reputation that's spoken about. But it's cool.
Yeah.
And it's glamorous. And it's really multicultural. And I think part of its essence is the fact that you have to sort of know it in order to know it. And so being able to exchange that way amongst friends, but also to be able to add that to the canon of images. Yeah. I was researching a story that we did with Precious, and I was talking to my assistant about what I wanted it to feel like. And she said, these images don't exist. What you're describing, a larger black woman looking glamorous and chic, and it doesn't
sort of
exist.
Like on a field, like in a farm, like it is real, but we haven't seen enough of it.
We haven't seen it. And so my assistant was a young black woman at the time, and she said, and that's why what you guys do is important, because these images don't actually exist. I thought that was really powerful.
Yeah, I personally, and I think we both get excited when we start to say to each other, this feels like something we haven't seen before. Mm-hmm. That happens, luckily, a lot with us, and it's because we get excited by, like, the little things, like the way someone wears their hair says about them. For me personally, I think there have been several defining shoots and projects that Carlos and I have done together. I think certainly the Vogue Couture story that we've spoken about with Ugbad Anak and Adut was a huge moment for really the five of us, for the two of us, but also for Ugbad Anak and Adut. We're just coming off of the heels of the Met Gala, which was reflecting on Carl's legacy. Those are some of the last couture garments that Carl made, which is really interesting.
Collection.
That was his last collection.
Last couture collection, yeah.
Which is really interesting to think about, and to think about those girls wearing those designs, photographed by this team as something that, again,
goes down in history now.
Goes down in history now, exactly. Precious was such an exciting muse for us.
That was fun.
As
it was just a fun
cover.
shoot as well.
Yeah, that was a cover for us that was very special.
Yeah.
Seeing Precious as this model that we both really loved, but felt we could bring what we do photographically, stylistically to her, and also bring about her personality, because she's from Atlanta as well.
Mm-hmm. To portray a black large body in a way that's not like hypersexualized or her being in complete possession of her own physicality. It's like, I don't need to wear like a corset because my body's not shaped like that, and I want to show off my curves, and there's nothing wrong with that. This is how I want to be seen.
Models often get so stripped of context. They do 1,000 shoots, they're seen 1,000 ways, and you don't really know which one is them.
Right.
And so we try to really do the shoot or the project with them that feels like who they are.
Right.
Precious and I became friends because we met on set. We did this Vogue Italia project, which was a grand, huge, epic thing to do, and met Precious, and Precious immediately talking to me about, I'm also from Atlanta. I also have aspirations of becoming a screenwriter. I really love films. We're talking about our favorite movies. So immediately there's a connection there, right? And so we don't want to just take sort of photographs of her that anyone else could take. We want to take photographs of her that feel like the way we know her.
Right.
The way she sort of is.
My favorite shoot we've ever worked on together was definitely Nigeria.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Tyler and I went to Lagos to photograph a crew of skaters called Motherland. This crew of skaters, the first of its kind in Lagos, At the time, they were trying to raise money to build Lagos's first skate park. These boys have since gone on to become
artists, painters, figures,
it boys, which is a gross term, but I guess. And they have really grown into their own. And I think we identified, I can't say we identified them as being sort of icons of their generation, but certainly friends of ours who were already familiar with them were like, you have to shoot these kids. Tyler actually had previously become acquainted with them through Instagram. Yeah. They knew his earlier work. They were really big fans of his. They are also young artists. So there was a rapport that way. And when my friend Alex said, hey, there's these kids, you have to know them, they're very ID, we were obsessed with the idea and we said, okay, let's go to Nigeria and shoot them. Yeah. And this was kind of at a time when I don't know that you would have gone to Africa to shoot some kids that no one ever heard of, but in very much true to our spirit, we were like, these kids deserve to be memorialized. Like, these kids deserve to be given this huge platform. They are heroes, and so we're gonna give them the hero treatment. Yeah. And so we went to Nigeria with a bunch of clothes, and we had the most amazing few days with them, just literally traveling around. They showed us their Nigeria. We did a lot of research, as we always do. We understood that what we were trying to portray was this sense of brotherhood and intimacy that really is not very much portrayed in the Black community.
Certainly not in West Africa a lot.
No.
As much as it should be, at least.
Right. I mean, I have a picture from that sitting in my living room, which is this two of the boys just embracing shirtless, which was an image that really to us was about, again, intimacy and brotherhood and sort of absent of anything sexual, you know? Just like masculinity and being so comfortable with yourself and like needing that sense of camaraderie. And closeness. Yeah. The cover image ended up being the three boys dressed in suits, which is very much, you know, a Tyler and I thing. We love a suit. We love Sundays best. Yeah. In Takwa Bay.
The beach where everyone would hang out in Lagos. The beach where basically where all the kids go.
Yeah. And I mean, our audience, while we were even taking that picture, was just like...
They're watching.
Yeah. Just the locals being like, what is going on here? Yeah. But like loving it so much. Yeah. And it just, I think the reaction to that shoot was so refreshing because I think instantly it became clear that people were really hungry for those types of images in the fashion world and beyond. I think those pictures really connected on a level that would really reach far beyond fashion.
It was very personal. At least, like, we were talking, you know, Carlos already kind of said, like, I remember receiving, like, must be 2016 DMs from these kids, Instagram DMs from these kids being like, we are, you know, some of the only skaters in Lagos. Skating's really illegal in our city. It's really illegal or looked down upon, or you get kicked out as soon as you start skateboarding anywhere in the neighborhood or in the city. We love your work. We know about your pictures. We also take pictures of each other, you know, on like our cameras or our flip phones or whatever we have. Here are some of them. What do you think of our work? I remember receiving this DM from one of these kids, and I looked and I just saw these amazing, charismatic kids who seemed to be doing their own thing on their own terms. And so we had been talking about them for years since this happened. They DM'd me, and I just remember responding something very brief, like, this is amazing, keep doing your thing. And then eventually when the opportunity came to do a cover, right, we're always talking, what excites us, what do we want to see on the cover of magazines? This was the story that we wanted to do, so.
Even that cover image and the way we sort of always discuss what the cover image is going to be, because I think that is always so important to Tyler and I, is the impact of whatever that image is, what it's going to say about the story inside, but also it being able to live on its own.
The things that I think inspire me in my work and then our work together when we're working together are often rooted in history, are rooted in ideas of Black representation, are rooted in ideas of what we haven't yet seen before of Black people in front of the camera. There's been it's such an amazing moment we're living in terms of Black cultural production artistically, that I'm so excited to be like in that pantheon of makers, you know? Like I'm so excited to be in the conversation, in the canon, in sort of a generation of people who want to have this conversation with me about what is a Black image, you know? What does that mean? It's not just about a Black person being in the picture, it's also about what that character is doing, what they're saying, where they are, what their hair is like, what their clothes are like.
How they think about themselves.
Yeah.
How they want the world to view them.
Yeah.
What they choose to wear speaks to how they want to be perceived,
Yeah.
which I think is like always been so important to the Black experience.
When you go to Lenox Mall in Atlanta, you see people just showing up to Lenox Mall, not to buy anything, but to flex exactly what they want to wear so
100%.
everyone can see them. It's about peacocking.
Peacocking.
You know, and it's like, that is some, you know, that's some Black shit that I can get into, that I really like love. Like, that's what inspires me. And
It's now interesting to see it through the lens of two young Black people, you know, which I think just means that the result is always going to feel a little bit deeper, you know, and a little bit more layered and textured. And we're very inspired by Black creatives who are choosing to tell their stories their own way these days. People like, you know, Tyler the Creator or Michaela Cole or, I don't know,
so many people
so many people who are just like re-envisioning
shaping culture today.
Absolutely.
We want to photograph them, you know. We want to envision them in the space of what we make. Well, we've set the bar really high for ourselves, haven't we? So we just keep trying to think about pushing the envelope, really.
What's new? What's next?
Yeah.
But also like how to continue to explore the themes that just feel natural to us.
As a photographer, I'm much more interested in being like, no, these are my conceptual conceits. This is what I'm obsessed with. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm preoccupied by. If you guys don't like it, that's fine.
Right.
I'm going to be saying this. A certain sort of doubling down
Sure.
on sort of what we're really into. The project of fashion sometimes encourages you to pack it all up and change it all over again, you know, which is exciting, right? Like, change who you are, change what it's about.
Most people want to feel beautiful and want to feel sexy and want to feel glamorous. Now, whatever is their version of that certainly will vary from person to person.
Totally.
But I don't think that desire to be seen shifts that much.
Yeah.
I think, you know, as we evolve as people and become more confident as image makers, I think we're willing to take more risks.
Yeah.
I think we're willing to explore things on a deeper level, maybe on a more
mature.
level.
Yeah.
I'm, for one, am very obsessed with sex.
I'm not.
You know, which is something that, like, maybe Tyler is, but not in his work. But I'm like, let's bring some
Maybe in a
more
unique
sex
way,
into this.
you know. This is also, it's good to be like in that way have differences.
Right.
Where I'm like, I'm not interested in like sex and images and like a, you know.
And I think anyone who looks at my work will see there's like quite a lot of nudity in it. Like that's just, you know, I love that. And I think our last shoot, I was like, Tyler, wouldn't it be great if there was lots of nudity? And he was like, I don't know. And
I kind of balked. I
would
was
be
like,
great,
oh, I'm not
but
sure.
I said we can do it in our way.
Yeah.
And I think we found a way.
Yeah, we did. And you know what's funny is like people have always asked like, oh, do you, like Miwa at Dashwood Books, like this bookstore I really love and like go to. She's kind of a mentor. She's like, Tyler, when are you gonna do like a series of nudes? Or like, you know, there's like, I'll look at Japanese photo books and sometimes it'll be a beautiful book of like nudes or whatever it is. And I've never done that. Like I've just not, like I've decided like, I guess I'm like, that's not what I'm gonna do. For whatever reason, I made up that rule for myself.
But now you've done it.
But now I've broken that rule. You know, it's not even, it's like rules are also meant to be broken and explored. And like, I like that Carlos will push me in that direction. And actually the work we've made is some of the most I'm proud of, you know?
And that's the beauty of,
Yeah.
you know, of a relationship like this. And any, I think, deep bond artistically is that you feel safe.
Yeah.
You know, you feel encouraged and you feel inspired to delve deeper because you know that, you know, you have a collaborator who has your best interest and the best interest of the picture. And so if there's something that we feel uncomfortable with, there's a safety in knowing that we can just talk about that.
Yeah.
Work through it. I can, you know, try to understand where Tyler's coming from. He can understand where I'm coming from, and then we'll meet somewhere in the middle. So I think that there's a real beauty in that familiarity and in that intimacy.
Yeah. Like skating does inspire me, you know, personally. Like I think skating inspires us as this thing that's a communal, like sort of a community building activity. Like I think that's what the angle I come at it from. I grew up skating in Atlanta as well. That's how I sort of found photography against all odds. Like I became obsessed with the art behind filming the sport of skateboarding. And there's a lot of people who do this, right? Spike Jonze was a skate filmmaker before he became sort of the Spike Jonze we know today. Bill Strobeck is still one of the great legends of like skate filmmaking. He makes all the Supreme videos to this day. I became obsessed with a similar sort of thing and then found my own voice in photography. I think with the Lagos project and with the Motherland Boys, there was something about wanting to bring those interests into what we do, sort of art making, fashion image making, that was about skating as a central site for Black communion, which I wasn't really fed enough of as a young person. Like, again, being from Georgia, like, I picked up skating in like 2010.
Right.
I was 13. I think, if I'm just being totally honest, in Atlanta, Black people looked at me a little sideways for doing that. Yeah, there's challenges daily, but you have to rise above them. I mean, that's part of this work, is like not letting any of that get in the way of making what you're called to make.
My uphill walk was longer than Tyler's. You know, we're a few years apart in age, and I think my route was a lot more traditional in the sense that I assisted for a long time. I interned. I did that whole thing, and I think my time assisting really gave me an insight into the way that things worked at that time. I worked for one of the most prolific and influential stylists ever. He sort of invented what we do, and I'm so thankful for that time, and I felt really privileged to be able to work up close with some of the true masters. And, you know, some of them are no longer with us, sadly, but that was a real masterclass. But it was very difficult having to sit in a room, you know, and listen to conversations around Black women's hair or bodies. It was difficult to understand that in order to be successful, I would need to assimilate to a certain extent. But, you know, there was a real joy in the moment when it became no longer necessary to do that, you know. And I think in the past few years, this evolution has occurred where it's become really clear that, like, us and what we have to say is valued. And I think it's made me double down in my desire to work with people from not only a similar generation, but maybe with a similar mindset, because I've realized that sometimes when you work with people who don't have that mindset or aren't of that generation, the work tends to be watered down, or it needs to be expressed through a more homogenized sort of viewpoint, which is sort of, I think, counterproductive.
Yeah. I actually am really drawn to beauty unabashedly. I think it is enough. It's enough for a feeling. But what's beautiful is the layers underneath beauty. Beauty's also driven and powered by politics, for me. I'm not talking about politics, the White House. I'm talking about the political idea of who we are as humans, where we come from. So for me, beauty is about, you know, it's about humanity.
Yeah.
So in that way, yes, it is enough.
Beauty is enough. The negotiation that occurs every morning when you're deciding how you want to present yourself to the world is something that we can all relate to. And I think on a personal level, when you feel your most beautiful, you certainly are able to be your best self. And then the other side of it is, like, growing up, being fashion obsessed, being totally enthralled by images, and having myself or anyone that I looked at on a daily basis be absent from that, it said a lot to me, I think subconsciously, about my place in the world and my value to mainstream culture. I think our goal as image makers is to make sure that this incoming generation and the current generation doesn't ever have to feel that way. And so making these beautiful images with people that maybe traditionally haven't been cast in images like this, I think does a lot to people's sense of self-worth, but also to people who might have preconceived notions of what a Black or brown or trans or disabled or short or fat person is. I think they can look to our images and say, I didn't know that, like, a large Black trans woman could just wear jeans and, like, just look hot. That's a revelation.
If you want to enter into this industry, bring your viewpoint with you, is what I would say. You know, I think there's a lot of encouragement, as I kind of spoke about earlier, to sort of leave that behind, to sort of assimilate into what everyone else thinks is cool, interesting, beautiful, whatever. Bring your viewpoint with you all the way to the end, because that's what you're gonna have that no one's gonna have. As like contrived as that may sound, your viewpoint is filled with so many more intriguing and alive sort of elements than you even think. When I really started to get excited by the banality of just like Southern life, when I started to get excited by the banality of actually how I grew up and the sort of mundaneness of that, that's when my work really transformed into something else.
I feel the same. I mean, I think those of us who make pictures for a living understand that there's so much of ourselves that we have to give to the pictures if we want them to be good, if we want them to connect. And so I think having a personal connection to the work that you're making is just, it's just invaluable. I think listen to yourself and just keep going.